We're on the same
When I
side.
woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
One about the past and one about the future.
Welcome to
Draftvice.
Draftvice. What we're gonna try to do this at the same
Yeah,
time? I
yes.
didn't know that.
I don't know if you want me to or what.
Yeah, welcome to Draftvice. We don't do retakes here. Yeah, man. Welcome to the quarantine edition of Draftvice.
This could be our last episode.
It could be. We might be stuck, or we will be permanently stuck here. They might
So
start
that means-
shutting down the roads.
So that means more content.
Yeah, we're actually at ground zero. We're like in the area of all the corona too.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
We're like what Wuhan, China was 2 months ago.
you know. So we're about to become Wuhan, China soon.
I remember I saw a video, like it was like how crazy Wuhan was. People are going crazy. I'm like, it sucks for them, but now how the turntables.
Dude, I remember doing a coronavirus joke like in January, and now it's here.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like Santa's here.
No,
Like, you get something for it.
No,
it's like, we're dealing with this shit.
I had a joke I was gonna tell at some mics this week before they got freaking canceled. It was about like how I kind of want to get it just to show people it's not that bad, but I'm not gonna tell it anymore because now I might actually get it and I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah, and then the big worry is that you get it and you kill your family with it. That's the sad, morbid part of it. But let's not think about killing each other's families or our own families. Let's think about football.
Killing your family. What?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The NFL has not pushed back the date as of right now is the new league year, which I'm kind of happy with. We need some entertainment in life.
Everything's canceled.
There's no reason to cancel the start of the new league year.
Tom Hanks got it.
Dude, Tom Hanks, man.
Now I remember like Tom Hanks, he posted an update, he goes, remember there's no crying in baseball, and then somebody replied, there's also no baseball.
So yeah, we're back at Draftvice. The league years now. Dude, there's so much news. Everybody's either getting released, an extension,
Franchise tags.
Yeah, they got 5 tags that got released this week. There was Justin Simmons of the Denver Broncos. There was
Hunter
Henry, yes. We're going to talk about Hunter Henry more later on this episode, but he's right. Hunter Henry got franchise tagged. Yannick Ngakoue, another guy we're going to talk about this episode, was franchise tagged for the Jaguars. Matt Judon got franchise tagged of the Baltimore Ravens. Everybody's getting franchise tagged, right? Mostly defensive players. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
And Brandon Sheriff, the other guy who's not a defensive player. So it's 60% defensive and 40% offensive. Brandon Sheriff, a guard, that's a rarity for guards to get franchise tagged. Why? Because that's not usually like a good price point for a guard, right? Like it's usually it's at the offensive lineman's rate. Like usually it's like the top 5 offensive linemen, which are usually tackles. So if you're franchise tagging a guard, it's a lot of money to spend 1 year on a guard. So Sheriff's franchise tag, Ngakoue, we got Hunter Henry, we got Matt Judon, and we got Justin Simmons. And 2 of those teams that franchise tag players we're going to talk about today. We're talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're talking about the Los Angeles
Chargers.
Los Angeles Chargers. Yeah. But before we get into that, dude, so much news. All the news. There's just ridiculous amounts of news. I think the top one is Ryan Tannehill got an extension, like a big money extension. Like, they committed legit money to this guy for the next few years. Talking about a 4-year deal. There's $60 million in guarantees, $90 million in total guarantees, $60 million in total, like in fully guaranteed money. So about $30 million of that is injury guarantee. But they're not going to be able to get out of this deal for the next 2 or 3 years. So if this ends up being like a Nick Foles situation, like last year with the Jaguars. Yep. That's a lockup, man. That's gonna screw your team over a bit, and you're gonna have to look at rebuild mode. Which, to be honest, it's the Titans. Who knows when they're feeling like they're in rebuild mode? It felt like they were in rebuild mode years ago. So there's that. They released Delanie Walker, the Titans tight end, the historic tight end. Man, he's like 192 years old. But they let him go. That's sad. Delanie Walker, man.
He's very good for them for a bunch of years.
He was very good.
I remember when he was that promising backup to Vernon Davis. That's how old I am.
Dude, I don't remember. That's how long ago it was.
Wow.
Like you just got better memory. That's how old I'm getting. I've actually contracted dementia at this point. That's why we have notes all around the room. You just can't see them. I'm like now going to look at the ceiling for the next note.
And then we could wipe our ass with the notes when we're out of toilet paper.
We actually printed it on toilet paper. Like we just bought so much toilet paper, we had to use it to print the notes on. And now we're gonna wipe our ass with it later.
Those are like rolls of toilet paper are now more valuable than stocks.
I know. Well, considering how bad it's gotten for some stocks too.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but the stock market's been taking quite a hit, especially oil. Like you can't get oil for now. Like you can buy oil for like cheaper than it is to buy sneakers, and it doesn't cost anything to like. It's not like you require a little child to make the oil, like sneakers do. So anyway, what we were talking about news, Quentin Spain of the Bills got an extension. There's a lot of extension talk. A lot of guys got released. You got Jimmy Graham got released. Also, fellow tight end Gronkowski signed with the WWE.
Well, that's gonna be fun. He just is like he stopped playing football to get to recover from CTE. Now he's gonna be getting kicked in the head and body slam.
Exactly. It's gonna be. And by the way, if you can't tell, he's this far away from me in the room.
Social distancing.
Yeah, exactly. The whole 3 feet of social distancing we're trying to do here.
It's gonna be like the thing. We're just gonna be like the last two survivors. Just sharing a bottle of vodka. One of us could be the carrier.
Exactly. We just everybody else dies off, and it's just me and Harry and we get two gingers to repopulate the world, and it's like, we got to find a woman now.
We're the last two.
Ginger Vice.
Yeah, last two comics. Last two comics left, and I still won't be able to get booked.
Yeah. So we're talking about also the XFL, because we're talking about coronavirus. XFL got canceled, everybody.
That's it.
And not because somebody posted a bad tweet.
Oh.
Although Andrew, we could get there. Although they're also guaranteeing everybody's salaries for the XFL. So at least that's nice of them. Oliver Luck said they're all guaranteed for the salaries. They're also allowed to sign with any NFL teams going into next year. Somebody was saying that they actually had a very big opportunity there with the XFL because they weren't getting a lot of attendance at games, and really what they were making their money on was the thing being on TV. So they could have probably shut down a little bit more. Like they could have found a way to work around it. Now I don't know because you have to test everybody.
Yeah,
that's the dangers with it. It's because you have 52. I don't know how many people are on the XFL roster. To be honest,
but they're coming close contact with everybody.
Yeah, they're grabbing each other. Are you testing them every game? Like, you never know if they're going to get it next week. So there's a good question there as to whether the XFL could have continued through quarantine. Like arena football almost. Calais Campbell got traded.
Yes, now a Baltimore Raven.
Yeah, former
Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yes, that's the team. And we're talking about that team today.
Yes.
Just to give you a couple of other things, the CBA has been agreed to. Cordy Glenn was released of the Bengals. Ricky Wagner was released of the Detroit Lions, their right tackle. And then Anthony Costanzo was given an extension by the Indianapolis Colts. They gave him a really good deal. This has changed the tackle market that's out there. I don't think Costanzo was ever actually an option for anybody but the Colts, though. I think this just, his deal set the market tone. It was a $34 million deal. That's not the full guarantees. I think it's only $24 million in guarantees. So listen, man, that's a lot of money to be just sitting. It's a lot of money now for tackles to have to try to get up to. It's $17 million a year. We're also looking at, again, like there's more tackles on the market. Cordy Glenn's played okay when he's been healthy, but he hasn't always been healthy. Ricky Wagner, he was good when he was on the Ravens. Yeah. But I don't know. I think everything comes down to scheme and scheme fit. Again, we've increased the depth of the tackle market. So I think in general, I think that's created. I think there was were there any other names on here? Delaney Walker gone. Quentin Spain's given an extension. We went over the franchise tags. Let's get into some of the teams because we talked about Calais Campbell being traded to the Ravens. I think we got to talk about these Jacksonville Jaguars.
Let's do it.
Because this team is going crazy. Now they're tagging Ngakoue. They trade away AJ Bouye for a 4th rounder. They're trading away Calais Campbell for a 5th rounder. They're just trying to collect picks. I think it's rebuild mode for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yep.
And I think it makes sense. Like, first off, you're not going to get anywhere with Nick Foles, right? You just know that.
Yeah.
Like, it should have been clear before you signed him. You went with him anyway. You're like, hey, you won a Super Bowl. We're going to get his old QB coach to be the offensive coordinator. And it didn't work out. Shocking.
Nope.
Now, you gave him an albatross of a contract. You're probably going to have to trade somebody a pick to get them to take it on because they don't have a lot of cap space.
Nope, they don't.
They have about $15 million in cap space after the A.J. Bouye trade. The Calais Campbell trade probably puts them up into the 30s. I think it's just time to just start dumping guys. At this point, they don't have Bouye. They got rid of Jalen Ramsey. They have 2 first-round picks and a high second-round pick. They got a lot of picks in this draft. It sounds like it's rebuild mode.
Yeah.
Now, do you want the guys who are in charge of this rebuild to be the guys who are there is the real question, right? Do you really want Dave Caldwell to be in charge of a rebuild for the Jacksonville Jaguars? The guy who, now granted, some people think Tom Coughlin was the reason why they gave Nick Foles that big deal. Like that was a Tom Coughlin thing. They're done with Tom Coughlin. They still have Caldwell and they still have Doug Marrone. And I kind of like Marrone.
He's a good coach, but he might like rub some players the wrong way. I think that's why he got kicked out of Buffalo so early.
Well, he left Buffalo. He opted out. He had an opt-out in his contract and he wanted to get out of there. So I don't know. Doug Marrone, I've heard a lot of different opinions. If you're a Bills fan, you really don't like him. Even though he got them to a winning season. Didn't they have a winning season when he was there?
I think they were like 500, but that was like their first 500 season, like forever.
I thought he was like a 9-win season or a 10-win season his last season there, and then he opted out of his contract. I got to look that up. We're not going to get deep into Marrone's old job. We're talking about his current job, dude. And everybody thought he was getting fired this year anyway. So I honestly think you got to go full rebuild, right? You got to take the players who you think are going to be there for the long haul and keep them, like Yannick Ngakoue. They're keeping him. Or they might trade him. You never know. Maybe they'll get another pick for him. That might be their plan right now is, listen, we're going to go full rebuild. We're going to go ahead. We're going to trade away anything for any asset we can. Like I think the big rumor so far was that they were going to trade Yannick Ngakoue with the tag. They were going to tag and trade him, which a lot of players don't like because they're now losing that opportunity to pick where they're going to be. But at least you're still getting money for him, right? He still gets money for being there. It's a fully guaranteed contract for 1 year. I think they're going to probably trade him for a third rounder or try and get something out of him so that they could do something now, right? Instead of having to wait till next year and get a compensatory pick out of him, they're trying to get something for him now. So what are they going to get out of that? And maybe they can get a third, maybe they can get a second, right? I think it's what they're really looking for is to build up this team. The offensive line's not bad, right? It's a weird offensive line. They didn't play well last year, though. I think you got to fix Cam Robinson. Either get rid of him, get a new guy in at left tackle. I like the right tackle, Juwan. Was it Juwan James? Not Juwan James. The right tackle Juwan is good. They drafted him last year in the second round. They got Linder at Brandon Linder playing center. Now he's got no guaranteed money left on his contract. So if they wanted to trade or cut him, that's an option. So they can clear up. That would clear about $8 million in cap space. They do have Andrew Norwell, who they signed out of free agency as a guard, who's coming out of Carolina. He's still got some guaranteed money left on the contract. Still got some, if they cut him, they'd have a lot of dead cap. But maybe they can get a pick for him too. And also the question comes down to what are they doing at quarterback? Like clearly Nick Foles isn't the answer. Are they just going to go forward with Gardner Minshew?
I think that's an option. Gardner Minshew did play very well in Nick Foles' absence last year. When Nick Foles came back, he wasn't up to what they, even after he came back, he wasn't playing up to what they hoped he would be, and they ended up going with Minshew towards the end of the year. So I think they go with Minshew.
And not only that, he looks good in jorts, and he's got a good mustache. Like he knows how to rock the mustache.
Like a true Florida man.
He definitely looks like he's from Florida. He literally does look like who's the quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars?
A legend. That's who they
does.
They had Nick Foles, who was a legend in his own right, but now they have a even bigger legend now.
So like I was saying, they traded away Ramsey for 2 firsts. They They got a few extra picks in this draft. Dude, they got a lot of picks.
They do.
They got 2 first-rounders, a second-rounder, a third-rounder, a fourth-rounder. They're going to have 2 fifth-rounders, 2 sixth-rounders, a seventh-rounder. This is going to be a very and I think that the plan here should just be do full rebuild. If they could trade down, get picks for next year as well. This is where you go ahead and rebuild your team. Like, you no longer have Jalen Ramsey, you no longer have AJ Bouye,
No longer have Calais Campbell.
Exactly. So you clearly trade away Yannick Ngakoue, get as many top 100 picks as you can, and try to rebuild this team. Really try to turn this team into a contender. If you don't like your quarterback situation, get a quarterback. If you don't like, and maybe, or build up for next year to try and get a quarterback. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, somebody in next year's draft. But you got to start building assets. You got to start building this team forward. And their defense, like they had a historic defense at one point with this team. This team went all the way to the AFC Championship game with that defense.
Could have went to the Super Bowl.
They were not far off, everybody. They were not far off. You got Leonard Fournette. Could you get anything for Leonard Fournette in a trade? Because I think this is the time of the full rebuild for them. And they got to figure out, all right, fine, Leonard Fournette's not going to work for us. Can we get anything for him? Can they get anything for any of these players? And then either clear out as much cap space as you can and try to roll it forward. They've got a very good offense. Like I said, it's a very potent offensive line. There's enough there where you go, this should be better than what it's played at. They got interesting wide receivers, but they don't have great wide receivers. Yeah. They got DJ Chark, who I like, D.D. Westbrook, who's shown promise, and then he's just not. But they've never all put it together. Like DJ Chark played really well with Gardner Minshew. D.D. Westbrook played okay like the last couple of years, but then like he falls off. He's played well out of the slot. You heard a lot more like from him. They got Chris Conley, who they signed out of Kansas City. They got a lot of young pieces. I think everybody still thinks they need to build up receiver. I think that they definitely need to get a quarterback, and they got to just build up more assets on that team. Corner, they got to get better at coverage, because again, they just lost corners too, right? So like if Jeffrey Okudah falls, I don't see him falling past 9. If maybe they take a Justin Simmons, not Justin Simmons, Isaiah Simmons, the linebacker safety hybrid warrior player out of Clemson. And again, these guys have 2 first-round picks. They got a top 10 pick number 8, and then they also, or is it pick number 9? Pick number 9. And then they also got pick 18. Oh, pick 20, I'm sorry, pick 20. I should have looked at the notes. Well, why have notes if you're not going to look at them, right? So, yeah, we have, again, 2 first-rounders. I think they should trade down. Like, anybody who wants to get Herbert, if Herbert's still there at 9, they should trade down and then try to accumulate more picks, try to fill out their roster, do what the Browns did a couple years ago, what the Dolphins been trying to do. Make yourself a competitive team with the value that comes out of these draft picks. So I don't even think they should sign free agents this year. I think they should just try and get whatever they can in the draft and try to build up a very young team and try to make it sustainable going forward. Like I said, you got 2 first-round picks this year. You got 2 first-round picks next year. You have a lot of pieces. I think it's a team that it makes sense to try to focus on a rebuild. And they don't have a lot of money, and that's what the benefit of waiting until next year gets you, is you're going to have more money, you're going to have a lot more players, and as you trade away, if they are trading away Yannick Ngakoue, that means full rebuild. Yeah. And I think it really is a full rebuild. Oh, it doesn't mean that you're going away from the rebuild if you keep Ngakoue either. Because, again, he's young, good pass rusher, and, again, if they can get more pieces in that defense and more pieces in that offense, I think it'll be an interesting team and if they can get a higher pick, they get like a second rounder for Yannick, which I think they could.
Yeah.
It's a very possible thing. If a team is desperate, especially this year in the NFL draft, there's no pass rushers, everybody. There's nobody. There's 2. It's 1, really. There's Chase Young. You're not getting him with a second rounder. And there's a lot of interesting guys who are second-round guys, but the Kayvon Chason, the LSU guy, interesting. I don't know if you really if you feel comfortable with him as your main pass rusher going into next year, if he's the guy you draft. There's AJ Epinesa out of Iowa. There's a lot of other guys, Josh Uche, Terrell Lewis. There's Julian Okwara. There's a lot of guys who are interesting, but there's nobody outside of Chase Young who you feel comfortable going into next year as your main pass rusher. So a lot of good corners in this draft. I think they should focus on trying to maybe they're the ones who try to go for the full coverage thing and try to build as many guys as you can into your defense, and then get a lot of good receivers. Use this as a good year to get as many receivers as you can in this draft as well. Build up your defense, build up your offense, and then hopefully you get a quarterback. Maybe even if you're not going to take one in the first round, maybe take a Jake Fromm in like the third or fourth.
Yeah.
Get something. Jalen Hurts, right? Get somebody who could play somewhere and do something. Like maybe you could build an offense around. Like again, Jalen Hurts, interesting pickup if they get him later in a third or fourth round scenario, and just try to take shots at quarterback. And then when you feel like you're ready to really get the quarterback, that's when you take the step forward. Anyway, so Jacksonville, full rebuild mode. But we also got another team we're talking about, right? Another team that was very big newsy team. Got rid of some players, Brandon Mebane, Thomas Davis, Travis Benjamin. I'm talking
The Los Angeles Chargers.
Los Angeles Chargers, everybody. No Phillip Rivers, man. It's going to be weird.
First time in, 15 years? Or
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. They got Tyrod Taylor on the roster. They're the team that I feel is like, wow, you can go anywhere with this team, right? They have a good defense, a good core of defensive players. They got Joey Bosa, who's like kind of coming up to the last years of his deal on his rookie contract. They got
Ingram.
They got Melvin Ingram, who a very good pass rusher as well. They drafted a defensive tackle last year in the first round. They got Derwin James, who's a great
Safety.
Great safety, but he's all around great player. Like he's a defensive weapon. Like when people talk about Isaiah Simmons, this is the guy who was Isaiah Simmons before Isaiah Simmons, and he rushed the passer. He's great in coverage. He could shut down a tight end. He could play free safety. He could play strong safety. He could play linebacker. He gives that defense such a great weapon. I think they do need a little bit more defensive tackle depth. But overall, man, this is they got rid of Thomas Davis. I think they're trying to get Perriman to go to do a cheaper extension. They got Casey Hayward, good corner. Has played very well for them since they got him out of Green Bay. The defense looks like it's potent. Like this is the time to strike now. They got a top, was it 6th pick? They got the 6th pick overall. They got Tyrod Taylor on the roster. I think they can be the team that makes a run for Cam Newton.
Very well could be. Jameis Winston, maybe?
Jameis Winston be an interesting one as well. You got Keenan Allen, very good route runner, great receiver. You got Mike Williams. So you got a lot of weapons there.
Austin Eckler, great receiving running back.
And they just gave him an extension, everybody. They gave him an extension. He's got the chops out of the backfield, $6 million a year deal. So a discount compared to the free agent who's running back that's leaving them in free agency, Melvin Gordon, who's probably looking for a $10 million deal. He's rumored to be attached to, you were saying, the Dolphins, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's that's an interesting guy to think about going into free agency, where he lands, because he's a very unique style running back, probably in that upper echelon, but maybe not tier 1, maybe tier 2 running backs. I love him. I liked watching him on the Chargers. I think he was my fantasy sweetheart, man. Any year I had him, I was doing gold. And he always seemed to fall to that end of first round, beginning of the second round. I loved having Melvin Gordon on my team in fantasy football. We're not talking fantasy right now. We're talking real life. And, dude, this team needs a quarterback. They could either draft one and also trade Russell Okung for Trey Turner. So it's a weird, they got a cheaper deal on Trey Turner. He's a younger player. I don't think this is a team going for a rebuild. This is a team that's looking to make a run, but they're not sure how they do it.
Yeah.
Do they trade for Cam Newton or Andy Dalton, who both, I think, if they had the right offense around them, also if they're both healthy, like Cam Newton, not always the healthiest guy in the world, hasn't been the same since 2015. We were talking about that.
The last time.
Is he worth maybe a third and then maybe a potential second next year? Maybe you look at, again, Andy Dalton, maybe trade him for a third.
That actually may make sense, because I think Tyrod Taylor would be a good gap quarterback for the Bengals until Joe Burrow's ready.
Yeah. Oh, maybe they do a swap for quarterbacks. That's another, because Tyrod Taylor's also on a very cheap deal too.
Yeah. Remember, he was a gap quarterback for Baker his first year in Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't play well in Cleveland, but I think you could build an offense around him. Anthony Lynn was a coach on the Bills when he was on the Bills, so he knows what works for Tyrod Taylor.
True.
So maybe they look at him and they go, "Well, we'll have you for now," and maybe they draft a Herbert in the top round, in the first round, or Tua, and they get one of those two guys, and then they try to like keep going forward with who they have. Either trade for Andy Dalton and swap Tyrod Taylor for Andy Dalton, or keep Tyrod Taylor and try to build an offense that will fit what he can do. I don't feel good about Keenan Allen's prospects with Tyrod Taylor throwing in the ball because he's not really good at intermediate throws. He's really good at the deep ball. Deep ball, look, run, and maybe a check down. Like that, those are his two major. He's got three moves. He's like that. He's like a Mortal Kombat character you only know how to hit like three buttons with, and you go like Sub-Zero in Mortal Kombat. Like, oh, I could do the freeze him thing, or I could just punch. Like, that's it. He's got the throw a deep ball, throw a check down, or a run. And that's basically Tyrod Taylor's repertoire. Not a good intermediate thrower of the ball. They got some money, so they can spend on free agents, but it's a really big question is who they spend it on, right?
Yeah.
They need offensive line. Trey Turner is a good offensive lineman to pick up because even though he hasn't been healthy, again, you're getting him for a relatively cheap contract. You need a right guard because their guard situation's been weird. And then when they didn't have Mike Pouncey, that O-line's just been horrible. When Mike Pouncey and Okung weren't playing, like Phillip Rivers was just getting murdered. So with Trey Turner and Mike Pouncey, if they take a quarterback in the first round, right, they might not take a quarterback, which then I'm really questioning what you're doing. If you don't take Tua or Herbert, then they got to take an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Take a guy like Andrew Thomas or a Jedrick Wills. Just build up that offensive line to make it serviceable. Make it a good offensive line where you're not having your quarterback murdered every other week. Maybe sign a guy in free agency who maybe is going under the radar. Maybe get Cordy Glenn in there, even though, again, another guy who's been an injury risk over the few years, but probably could have traded for him for $9 million on his contract. I'm shocked that the Bengals weren't able to get any kind of deal for him. But the Chargers are a weird team. They're clearly not in rebuild mode because they still have a lot of good pieces. They got Keenan Allen. They got the pass rushers. They got
Derwin James, as you may.
Yeah, like they got a lot of guys. We said before they tagged Hunter Henry. Like, again, another guy who they're keeping on for the long haul. So another guy who they tagged. They've released a bunch of guys. They got $53 million in cap space right now to spend. If they wanted to sign maybe a Tom Brady in free agency, that was a big rumor. Mm-hmm. But you better figure out that tackle situation then with Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Because he's going to get murdered back there if he doesn't have like some kind of semblance of an offensive line around him. Same thing anybody who goes there, but at least if you're getting some athletic guys, like again, you have Tyrod Taylor. He's made the offensive line look a little bit better. With no Scherf, maybe they go for one of these guys who got released, like a Ricky Wagner or Cordy Glenn. Maybe they go for Joe Thuney, the guard, but they really don't need a guard. Maybe they could use a guard on the left side too, but then you've built up the middle three, but you don't have anybody on the edges protecting you. I think they go for tackle. I think maybe they try to go get Whitworth out of the LA Rams. That way he doesn't have to move far, right? It's like, oh, you're moving literally across lockers. There you go. We're just getting Andrew Whitworth here. So hopefully the league, the actual, like I heard OTAs might get canceled for Corona.
Yep.
That's a big worry for a lot of people. The NFL draft might get postponed. People were
I heard
talking
they
about.
may do it over the phone.
Well, that's how they really like the NFL draft does not need the whole rigmarole that they do. They need the players. They need to know who they're getting. They need to be able to give them the playbook. They need to be able to like get everybody set to go. The whole ceremony of the draft isn't a big deal.
No.
First off, they're going to make money on it anyway because they're going to be able to do some kind of NFL night special.
That may be the only sports related thing on TV that night. So
well, that's why I don't think it's a good idea for them to push back anything with the new year, because honestly, this is what people are going to be talking about for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Oh, this guy signed here. This guy talked to this person. This guy signed there. This agent got this guy this deal. So you're going to hear more about NFL than any other sport because this is the business season of the NFL. So why get rid of the business season when it's going to be the only thing anybody talks about on all the networks for all the, ESPN and NFL Network and the radio. Anybody who does sports radio is going to be talking about it. This is a good time of year to be football because you're not even going on during the Corona BS. And then they can go ahead and find a way of getting everybody ready for the start of the season next year. Especially now it's going to be a 17-game season, everybody. Y'all excited for that shit? All right.
Depends what team you root for.
I guess so. Well, why? Because you got 17 games of losing?
Yeah.
Oh, I get it.
Well, you guys could be the first 0-17 team.
We're the only I think we're supposed to be the only 0-16 team.
But you're like
Lions got 0-16 too, right?
Yeah.
They went on. I know they lost. I didn't know if it was before or after they moved to 16 games.
No, it was 08, so they were 0-16.
So there you go, man. We could be the first 0-17 and 0-16 team, man. I'm excited. Everybody thought it was going to be Miami Dolphins. We're going to also get the 0-16. They didn't do it.
Thank you, Jets. Or we gave the Dolphins and the Bengals their first wins this year.
Dude, you kept the Bengals' hopes alive, and we gave them a game. We gave them a win too. Thanks, yeah. Browns.
But you also beat Baltimore, so there is that.
Yeah, and then they actually played. Not for nothing, the Browns played pretty well against Baltimore without like half of their defense. So. Yeah. You know what? Hopefully the Browns take a step forward. Well, that's the thing because we were talking about before about trades like the Calais Campbell trade with the dude. Baltimore's going to be a scary defense next year, man. With Calais Campbell, they're keeping Matt Judon. It sounds like they have all those corners. It sounds like they're spending a lot of their.
I remember I was looking at some like they got their last two big like acquisitions were Marcus Peters during the regular season, now Calais Campbell, and they only gave up fifth rounds for both of those guys,
dude. Yeah, the Marcus Peters one, I was kicking. I wanted to beat down was it not Les Moonves, the other guy, Leslie Snead's door, and be like, "Well, I can't believe you guys did that! God damn it!" Yeah. So, thank you for listening to Draftvice. I think we're gonna try and find ways of doing more episodes going forward, considering there's like no one, like you can't go anywhere right now in our area. There's roadblocks. There's people being tested. There's no roadblocks, but there are people. We're in the central area of the Corona zone as far as the United States.
Well, it's like we'll do as many we'll do as many episodes as we can before one of us comes down with the Corona.
Yeah, hopefully.
That's statistically very likely to happen.
Yeah, I heard it's like 40 to 70%.
Yep.
Yeah, that's if we start testing. If we don't test anybody, we don't know. If you don't know, it didn't happen.
And next week is just going to be like 40 minutes of me coughing into the mic.
Yes. Also, starting next week, right, we're going to start doing call-outs, the people who go ahead and write reviews and write comments at the bottom of the episodes, right? I'm going to post them, too.
It's like 21st century fan mail.
Yeah. Like, if you commented at the bottom, like, hey, I miss fat ass, you know who I'm talking about. For instance, the people who commented that, I might post it on the website. I might post it on the video. We'll give you a shout-out. There's been quite a few people more commenting on the videos, so I'm thinking we'll go ahead and do that. If you wrote a review on the iTunes, I'll give you a shout out on there. If you share it, we'll give you a shout out. If you share the podcast, we'll give you a shout out.
If you send us money, we'll give you a shout out.
If you send us money, we might blow you, depending on how much money you're sending.
Yeah.
So go ahead, share it, like it, or leave a review. You can follow the podcast at Draftvice on Twitter, at Draftvice_football on Instagram. You can follow me at Brojo Death Punch. It's BROJO, death, like that thing that we're all going to be doing when we get the coronavirus, and then punch, the thing you have to do to get toilet paper when you're trying to, go to the store. That's Brojo Death Punch on all platforms. You can follow Harry.
Yes, Harry Van Ness on Instagram. Gonna be really hard to remember, I know.
And then you can, like I said, like the podcast if it's on YouTube. Leave a review, a 5-star review preferably. If you give us a 5-star review, we will leave your name in the bottom, what you want, like maybe like a shout out or what you like about the podcast, and we'll go ahead and we'll say something about you on the podcast. And then, tell us your favorite team. Tell us your favorite team. Tell us your favorite episode. And again, share it, like it, all that fun stuff. And subscribe on YouTube, everybody. Even if you only listen to the podcast, go subscribe on YouTube. It's just nice to do. and take care.
Peace.
We're on to something
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
about the past and about the future.